This is day 1 of the April 97 7-day retreat in Springwater. A marvelous sunny Sunday. With the birds maybe doing all the necessary talking. The first talk of a retreat, we usually take up a new kind of listening, wondering if that can be come upon. A new kind of listening, looking, experiencing. Which is something like stepping out of the house into the open. Not just cranking open a window or looking through the door. Do you find that too, that every time you step out of the house you wonder why you had forgotten how it is to be outside? The sound of the wind and the birds. But not just the sounds and sights and fragrances of spring. But the openness of not holding on to what was, which is nothing we can do by sheer willpower alone. We're trying it all the time. And people ask me this. You talk about a new kind of listening, open, unfettered. How do I get there? What is the path? Which I don't know. We can only talk from now and listen now, either within the house, shutters down, shutters open a little bit, illuminating all the stuff of the house, or for a moment, no house, no enclosure. No need to constantly reference everything to myself. That's what open listening is. An abeyance, a quieting down of this seemingly innate human compulsion to refer everything through oneself back to oneself. Become aware of that. Not how do I get rid of it, give me a path or a method, but can it be illumined as we go, as we talk and meet together and sit together in silence? This amazing need to immediately think the moment something is perceived, the next instance, fraction of a second. How do I like it? Is that for me or is that against me? The connections that take place in the brain with no one directing it or switching it. This reminds me of that. We don't think that way. It happens automatically. something is seen, heard, smelled, touched, felt. And the network lights up with association of what this is like. And not just association mentally, but association emotionally, physically. Not just the past memories of something, but the past feelings, experienced feelings. It's just as recorded and just as triggerable. How I felt, how I sensed, emoted at that time, which is called up by something heard or seen or smelled right now. To be in awe of the velocity, the speed of this association, which normally we're not even aware of. We're not aware of it, but it's possible to be aware of it. And to realize there's no I, me, or entity doing this. It happens because patterns are laid down in this human organism. Not just the human organism, in all organisms, organic as well as inorganic. Patterns of responding. And in becoming more and more aware of it, does this call into question this deep conviction, this deep belief into a me who is controlling my life, who is in charge, who is the doer, the knower, the experiencer, the thinker. Whereas one moment of meditative listening, awareing, it all happens on its own. Chut, 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 and airplane. To know that it's an airplane, it may not be. The association popping up almost simultaneously. Actually, it is so quick that some people argue with me. They say, I think before I perceive something. It seems to be the other way around. First I think, and then indeed I do hear the bird. Because we're so caught up in thinking. I'm putting it in that case because this is the only language we have. I am so caught up, we are so caught up. A better way, less befuddling, would be there is caught upness in thinking and associating, remembering and emoting from the past. Seeing in past eyes and hearing in past ears what is fresh this moment. And maybe at one point, this moment, hearing or seeing something as for the first time. The amazement, the beauty of it, the freedom, and then thought coming so quickly. How did I do this? How can I keep this? Was this real? Is this all? Thinking, 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 constantly adding to the web. And living in that web most of the time. Not all of the time. We also have the feet on the ground. Do we? Are the eyes open? The ears open? The senses open? To receive, and then a fresh awareness that the immediacy of being is not the same as the web of thinking about myself, hearing or seeing. We'll go into this. We have a lot of opportunity in meetings, group and individual, as well as further talks. Talks grow out of our uncertainties, confusions, as they are voiced in meetings. And then a talk gets busy with looking into confusion and concern together. Not just one person working right now. We're all engaged in this, wondering about this new kind of listening. Even though the word bird may be there so seemingly indelibly. But so it is. So the brain works and has been working for hundreds and thousands and millions of years, storing names and reactions and feelings. And yet the possibility to be aware of that. Aware that the stuff that's brought up from memory, what I know about you and the birds and the spring day, is not the same as stepping out of the house and taking a deep breath. Looking around, not to see something, but simply being here in its fullness, as well as emptiness. So what is it that impedes open listening? Yes, we cannot really describe or look at open listening, which is all of our birthright. What we can look at, discuss, go into communally or alone is what are the hindrances. We can talk about those and hopefully not just talk about it, but come upon it as they manifest. I've already mentioned knowing something from the past, from memory, naming it, the deeply ingrained habit, reaction, reflex you could call it, to name what is perceived, associated with what is known about it. And the personal attachment to the known, because all that I know and remember and have gone through is me. This is the feeling. This is all me, is all part of me. And a real clinging and attaching to that known/remembered existence, felt as being mine. How do we come upon it? Maybe talking about it like this has something to do with it. I'm quite sure it does. Talking about it, maybe not quite understanding what it is that's talked about, understanding it intellectually, and sort of keeping it in the mind. The mind can't quite let it go because it doesn't quite understand it. And then at a moment as it happens, a name coming up, a reaction. I want this, I don't want that. To see that reaction, not as something to be condemned or praised. This is another deep habit, to condemn or praise. But there's no need for that. It's all that's needed is illuminating what goes on in this human body-mind, which impacts and narrows, clouds or distorts our perceptions. What I want, what I'm afraid of, what I want to be, what I don't want to be, what I'm afraid of that others are. All of this is narrowing and clouding, distorting our perceptions of each other, whether we are aware of it or not. It happens. Are we interested in finding out more about it? may not be what we came to retreat for. We came here to find some peace and quiet from this ever rushed, ever hectic, turbulent daily life. And of course, this is what a place like this is offering. A lot of quiet. Whether there's peace, it all depends. Whether there's order within, the order of seeing what's going on, aware of it, not in conflict with it, not in support of it, or in denial of it. So, as we said yesterday in the opening talk, there is no obligation to come to these talks. Inevitably, a talk will bring with it challenges to our habitual way of being and thinking. And challenge may or may not be an upsetting thing. It's sort of fueled energy to look, to question, to find out. But if this isn't what one wants at this point in one's life, then one doesn't have to come to a talk. It's all right. We said yes, that we don't keep score, attendance. Completely not of the spirit of this place. So in listening to this talk here right now, we don't want to get into abstraction here, it's going on right now. How is one listening to this talk, the words that come out? And bird twittering and crows cawing. Breath flowing in and out. Heart beating. What's the state of listening? Not to give oneself a verbal account of it. The question is not meant to incite the thinking brain, even though that's what most questions in the beginning do. We hear a question, we start to think about it. It's an amazing thing to hear a question and begin to look, listen, not know how it is right now. If we think about it, we can't get at it completely. Have to stop and quietly attend. So in coming to a talk, is there expectation of what Toni is going to say? What one would like her to talk about? Or what one would not like her to talk about? Expectation of wanting something as well as fearing something? Can that be felt within one's frame? Expectation throbbing. What I want, what I don't want. One may find during a round of sitting, if the joints start aching, and maybe ache in the legs or back, is there expectation of the bell ringing? The whole organism wanting that to happen. It's a palpable movement toward something imagined, the end of the sitting. And the feel of it, feel of expectation of something to happen. So it's an expectation in a talk. One wants to be clarified, inspired, whatever. Is there an image in the mind of oneself sitting here as a listener? An image of Toni as the speaker? What she is? Maybe not well defined, maybe very well defined. Is that there? One may not even know how to answer that. We're asking the questions. Maybe it'll pop up, or the awareness will pop up of, yes, I have an image of her. I want something of her. Or is one sitting without images? It's usually very rare for us, although not impossible. The abeyance of images, quieting down, of thinking of oneself in special ways and thinking of others in special, defined ways. This is the direct listening is beyond images, beyond what I know about her or him or myself, or the church bells, just listening. So another question we can ask in connection with listening, is one set from a habit, long habit, to grasp what is being said? One wants to keep it, note it down, not forget it. Sometimes people bring notebooks to a talk. Maybe some people have brought it now. At one retreat in Germany last year, somebody was writing down all the time. So to become aware of our ingrained desire to grasp, keep, remember it, have something to take with me, and the awareness of it, is it possible? And with the awareness showing the habit, the desire to grasp, to listen again, freshly. I used to be an avid photographer. Not so much stills, but movies. I loved taking movies of our trips and our child growing up and family visits and all that customary stuff. There was an ad that was advertising film, ACFA film, it's still in Germany. And it said, he or whoever takes photographs, enjoys life more, gets more out of life. And we all know how we love the pictures the day after, or the week or month after. We love to see ourselves and each other in pictures, these arrested moments. Usually, most everybody's smiling. For the picture, very often, just for the picture. We have to be reminded to smile. And then one day I really had enough of it. The planning that has to go on, the remembering what was the last scene, because if you'd just gone up a tower to the steeple, top of the steeple, you didn't want to see the next frame later on at home and going up again and going up again. How did you ever get down? So I began to remember, where did I leave off? So there was some pleasant continuity. So I put it all down. It was just too much. And I realized the ad was entirely wrong. he or they who don't photograph enjoy life more. The trips, everything wasn't just seen through this frame, and how will this look, and I need some more foreground, different light. So, even though the desire to hold on is strong, and I love it when people give me pictures when they take them. I'm not condemning it, I'm just we're discovering what goes on. When one is here, out of the house, and not trying to grasp what is going on, which means the story about what is going on is relatively quiet, it's in the background, or not running at all. Because the moment the story runs, what this is and what it is for me and how I'm going to tell about it to others, then I'm not completely here, I'm with the story. The continuity and embellishment of the story of my life. I'm not condemning it. It goes on. But to see for oneself, to discover for oneself, this amazing moment of no story and simply being here, not knowing how or why or wherefore. Which, to come upon this moment may not be unrelated to discover all the moments in which we're hemmed in on all sides by what we want, what we're afraid of, and needing to think about it and think it through and find a thinking solution to it. All of this is narrowness and confinement. Very often necessary. One starts to think about one's situation, tries to find a solution. But this trying to think about it and finding solutions must be related to some direct facts that one is observing, or else the story takes off on its own without any groundedness to reality and to the reality of other people with whom one is related. So, to listen to the hymns, to the confinement, in a fresh way, freshly meaning not, how can I get rid of it? How terrible, or how human, this is my human nature, we can't be other than human. All of these rationalizations that the brain pumps out to protect itself, its status quo, to become wise. When rationalizations start pouring out, when has questioned something or somebody else has questioned something, brain says, well, what's wrong with it? This is human nature. Everybody's like this. Then we stop investigating. Then we start defending, protecting. I want to say a few words before ending about authority. Maybe we should not use the word authority anymore, because I have been told by a few people that they like to hear somebody who speaks with authority, meaning someone who speaks unwaveringly, not insisting doggedly or dogmatically, but checking and saying, yes, this is so, and let's have questions and look at it and see whether it is so together. The strength of looking and seeing and clarity. If that is what is associated with the word authority, let's leave it aside. What I'm trying to say is what is being said here in a talk or in meetings is not said so that you should adopt it, take it over, believe in it, repeat it to others because somebody whom one considers an authority has said so. What is said here is merely offered for direct investigation. Either one sees it directly, yes it is so, or no it is not so, or one wonders, is this really so? Doesn't have the answer. But a wondering mind will function in an amazing way, be more astute in observing in the light of the question. So, nothing that is said as something that is cast in stone, not to be doubted, not to be questioned, to be accepted, believed in. I am not infallible. I may say something I have not completely seen through, because the automatic mind of knowledge is so quick, so powerful, so willing and ready to take over, talking from knowledge, from what one knows to have been so, and not this direct groundedness in looking here and now. Because sometimes a situation that one may be talking about isn't taking place right now, so memory needs to be accessed, but there's awareness of accessing memory. And the possibilities of there being faulty memory. So, the meetings we have scheduled, together and alone, and on day 4, people meeting with each other. If you feel like it, there's no compulsion behind it, no requirement. They can serve to sort of plow and aerate and break up the clods. I'm thinking of the earth right now, plowing for seeding and receiving rain. To go through and over things together, into things together that are unclear, not understood, that seem so strange or so wrong or so outside of one's experience. In one's own experiences, it's like this, one will say. So that's what we have meetings for, just to have nothing but talks with no possibility to air it out. I don't think would be good. And yet, can't say for sure, because here and there somebody comes to a retreat and doesn't want to talk at all, doesn't want to go to meetings. Whatever one's motives may be, maybe one doesn't even want to check those, I don't know. But I'm respecting what people need to do right now, not feeling they ought to do differently in order to get to a certain place. So, if you wish to bring something up concerning a talk, feel free to do so. I'm not afraid of criticism. It is this in meeting and talking together, that's the wonder and beauty of it. The personal can slip away like stepping out of the house of personality, so that there's a freedom to look together without our perennial defensiveness and easy to be hurtness. If ever you bring something up in a meeting that you don't want to resurface in a talk, because things do resurface in talks that have been brought up in meetings, not by identifying the person who said it, but if nonetheless you feel I don't want this to be brought up at all, then please let me know. And I hope it will not. Quite sure I can keep to that and not forget that. all this talking and listening. Where are we right now? Is the brain trying to answer it? Or is it just breathing and sounding? And an active brain chirping away like a bird. We will end here for today.